Hey, this is Darryl Lyons. In this week's episode of Retire in Texas, we're going to talk elections. I'm going to talk about key dates that you need to be aware of. And I'm going to talk about getting your mindset right in front of a lot of the noise that's coming your way. I want to prepare you mentally for this big historic event coming up this year. So please tune in, stay to the very end, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Think long term. Have a great day.
I love being an owner of companies. Long term makes a ton of sense. You're investing with really brilliant minds who are driven, who have aligned motivations with me as a shareholder, and they have incentives to win, to make money.
Do you want a wealthy retirement without worrying about money? Welcome to the Retire in Texas podcast, where you will discover how to enjoy your faith, your family, and your freedom in the state of Texas. And now, here's your host, financial advisor, author, and all-around good Texan, Darryl Lyons.
Hey, this is Darryl Lyons, CEO and co-founder of PAX Financial Group. Thanks for tuning in to Retire in Texas. This information is general in nature only. It's not intended to provide specific investment, tax, or legal advice. Visit paxfinancialgroup.com for more information. And so today we're going to talk elections. Investing is really simple, but it's not easy. And so this is going to be a difficult year because there's going to be a lot of noise and emotion. So I want you to get in front of it, and I'm going to give you some information that I think will equip you to be in front of the noise. Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the primaries and the convention end in August of this year, right? When you're just exhausted of the Texas heat, that's when the primaries end. Then the debates start. The presidential debates are in September and in October. Those are 90 minutes each. The first debate is September 16th. That's a Monday, and that will be at Texas State in San Marcos. Okay, you follow the timeline so far. Election day is November 5th. That's a Tuesday. November 6th is a Wednesday. So if you need to take Wednesday off, November 6th off now, I'm giving you a little bit of runway to do that. Interesting side note, 1968, any guesses who won that election? President Nixon defeated Hubert Humphrey. And if you look in my office, I've got some memorabilia from Hubert Humphrey because we had some family that had a business relationship with him. So for what it's worth, and don't judge me, I just have it, okay? Inauguration Day is January 20th. Okay. Now, we have the election, of course, but make sure that you, and I know you won't forget, but this is not a popular vote. It's the Electoral College. So you'll need to pay attention to Georgia, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, and Florida. Those are the states that are most important. We also have to remember, we have Congress that we're electing. A third of the Senate is up for election, and all 435 seats in the House are up for re-election. So what are the potential outcomes? You could get a Democrat president and a Republican House, or you can get a Republican president, Democrat House, some combination of the Senates, or you get straight line all Democrats, straight line all Republicans. Historically, what's the best for the stock market? What's the best combination? It's a mixed bag. Whenever you have a Democrat president, Republican Congress, or vice versa, you get this kind of stagnation. They have a hard time getting in the way of business. That's the best. So am I rooting for a gridlock type of environment? I don't know yet, but I'll tell you this. Getting them stuck, getting these, I want to call them clowns. It's not nice, but getting these elected officials stuck fighting against each other is really good for business because then they don't get in the way and they don't get any regulations that stop business. But just so you know, that's the best historically stock market environment. So the Gallup poll did a study September 30th, 2023. Top three economic issues in this survey: the economy in general, high cost of living or inflation. And 3, the federal budget, the debt. Top 3 non-economic issues in this survey. Number 1, government and poor leadership. Number 2, unifying the country. And number 3, democracy. So let's talk about one of those, and that's the federal budget and the debt. And this is really one of the most important points and issues of our generation. The Democrats, generally speaking, tax the rich. And now it's not phrased that way. It's fair share. It's phrased other ways, but taxing the rich. And if you have a concern about the way I express that, you can listen to the prior show and I articulate what I mean by that phraseology. I'm not meaning it in a derogatory way. I'm addressing the tax the rich phrase as an intellectually dishonest approach that needs to be coupled with fiscal spending, discipline, and responsibility. And the Republicans may have a tax the rich, but they also talk about cutting spending. Historically hasn't had a very good track record. Neither party has had a good track record of cutting spending. In fact, if you look in the history of presidents, Reagan didn't exactly run a surplus. Bush didn't run a surplus. Obama didn't. JFK didn't. The only one that really did was Slick Willie for a few years. So we have a presidential history of, to a certain degree, financial mismanagement. But this debt, this deficit is a priority. I don't think we address this in an emotional point of view. We have to think about it cerebrally, and we cannot, unfortunately, make Social Security and Medicare untouchable. I'm sorry. There's just no way around it. The math doesn't work. So we're going to have to address that in some way. It may be our children, or it may be our children's children, or it may be me, but it's going to be addressed. Don't just, and I know you won't, but don't just grab a headline strategy and run with it. Think critically about, and here's the key phrase, the indirect consequences of those decisions. So, for example, you may see something like, we're going to increase the corporate tax rate. First glance, that makes sense. They need to pay their fair share. But then you say, okay, well, then those businesses, there's a certain tipping point where those businesses will move their manufacturing facilities or whatever else to another country. There's a tipping point. We could say, let's tax Social Security or increase the estate tax and say, well, that sounds great. But what you may find, if the indirect consequences, is that the wealthy and the affluent will find strategies to kind of work around this, whereas those that don't have resources will end up paying more in taxes. So we have to think critically about the indirect consequences. And F. Scott Fitzgerald said this really well. Hear me out here. The truest sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain two contradictory ideas simultaneously. The truest sign of intelligence is the ability to entertain two contradictory ideas simultaneously. So you take these two ideas and you just kind of say, okay, I understand one side of the aisle, and I also understand the other side of the aisle. I can make an argument for both. That is intellect. And so as you go through these presidential debates, try to make sure you really can explain the other side. And then you draw conclusions. And a lot of us are going to say, we're going to say this is the most important election of our lives. That's going to be a phrase that all of us are going to say. And we've said it over the last 20, 24, whatever years. We've said this. This is a phrase we've said. So is it? I suppose it is. Or maybe we're being dramatic. I mean, I don't know. We say it all the time. We do. You got to admit, we say this all the time. It's interesting, though, how the stock market and the economy still go up, still move, still accelerate. They still grow, regardless of who's in office. Regardless, believe it or not, since 1947, the U.S. economy has done better in a Democrat-controlled White House and Congress. But The stock market has done better under a Republican-controlled White House and Congress. Now, just so you know, I just said two different things, and sometimes our brains use those synonymously. Economy, markets, it kind of seems like it's all one and the same. The economy is different. The economy is jobs, and also the phrase we hear is GDP, but the stock market's just different. It's investing in companies. I'm not going to talk about the economy, but let me talk about the stock market. I've been doing this since 1999, and I'm always surprised how well the stock market does despite the events. It's amazing. I mean, think about this. Since 2008, we had Obama in office. We had Trump in office, polarizing people. But 2008, business not just survived, it thrived. Cloud computing. We don't have files in our office anymore. Tablets. Rideshare, Uber. Like, who would have thought? I mean, I was so tired of going to the airport and dialing 222-2222. Now you got Uber. Who would have thought? Virtual home assistants. Hey, Google, play piano music. Fitness trackers. I've got one right now on. I mean, I can check my sleep, my alarm clock. Electric cars. Virtual payment systems. You can cash out at the table. Your waiter can come. In some cases, they don't come. You just cash out at the table. I mean, smart homes. I don't even use my wired speakers in my home. I just use the smart speakers. Of course, we've got social media, YouTube. Love it or hate it. It's crazy. You can just watch YouTube. You don't even need to turn a dial anymore. Zoom, artificial intelligence and what it's doing in the medical space. I mean, the list could go on and on. Companies will thrive regardless who's in office. I love companies. I love being an owner of companies. Long-term makes a ton of sense. You're investing with really brilliant minds who are driven, who have aligned motivations with me as a shareholder, and they have incentives to win, to make money. Now, you may not, at your stage in life, you may not want 100% of your money in companies. You may not want to own stocks. I don't know the amount that's appropriate. It could be 10%. It could be 20%. It could be 100%. I don't know. That's between you and your advisor. You may want some bonds. You may want some alternative investments, structured products. Previous shows, we dove into those unique strategies that we have put together for clients who have an allergy to stocks, because I get it. But for those that have some tolerance for stocks, I just want to say, enjoy them. You're investing in innovation. You're investing in America. I mean, we take it for granted. It is an amazing thing to own stocks through the stock market over an extended period of time. And regardless who's in office, it's my conviction that we'll thrive despite who's president. Like I said at the beginning, investing is simple, but it's not easy. Warren Buffett actually said that. And this election year, it's just not going to be easy. So you got to stay in control of your emotions. Don't let the noise influence. Stick with the plan. And remember, you think different when you think long term. Have a great day.